Hello, my lovely critters! Since I've started streaming, there's been one question that I get all of the time, and I've talked a lot about my streaming journey. And the question that I get asked a lot is, why did I make the switch from facecam streaming to being a VTuber? And more importantly, why did I make the complete switch to have a brand new account as Skitters? Okay, so you may be wondering how I went from this to this to where I am right now. Many of you have come to know me as Skitters, a moth VTuber that loves to create what I would consider cozy, chaotic content. But I didn't start that way. In 2020, a friend had built me my first ever desktop PC. I was thrilled. At that point, I was super interested in streaming, but I didn't really know where I needed to begin. I did my research, and I quickly became overwhelmed by all of the information that I found out there. And this was before I even knew that VTubing existed. At that point, I decided to just jump right in. I knew that I could take my chances as a facecam streamer. I feel like for a baby streamer that knew pretty much nothing, I grew pretty quickly. I was loving streaming, and I got to show off my cosplays, my makeup, and I got to share games with my community that I really enjoyed. Okay, I hear you, but Skitters, if you loved it so much and you were growing so fast, why did you stop? I streamed as a facecam streamer for about 2 years, and it quickly became one of the lowest points in my life. I was miserable. At the time, I was struggling with things both on and off stream. I had a lot of friends that I had made through facecam streaming, but I still managed to feel alone. Nothing really felt genuine. I was slowly chipping away at my own self-worth to serve the community that I had built, that I ended up strongly catering to. I felt like I had become a painted up puppet, and I was degrading very quickly. And with all of that, just as quickly as my passion for streaming had started, it had completely fizzled out. I knew that in order to not burn out, I had to make a change. And this was around the time that some of my friends had started VTubing. I was super interested in the concept, but it was one of those things that I again had zero idea of where to start or even to begin looking. I mentioned to one of my close friends that I was interested, and that was when she sent me my first ever link to a pre-made pink bunny girl VTuber model. At the time, this model was beautiful. She was perfect. She was everything that I had ever wanted to be on stream. She provided me a much larger creative outlet than facecam streaming ever had. By the next day, I had downloaded all of the necessary software and I started streaming as my VTuber self. I was very unsure and not confident in myself, and I could tell that this decision had come as a major shock to my audience. I had told my audience that I would only be VTubing occasionally, and of course we all know that that's not how that went. Making the switch from facecam streaming to VTubing was incredibly hard. I was so tired of being looked at as an object on stream and having people think that they were entitled to me or my body based off the content that I produced. I was tired, I was broken, and I didn't really have any idea what I wanted out of streaming, even after making the switch to VTubing. The one thing that I did know though was that I loved VTubing. I loved the level of privacy that it gave me, and I loved how free I felt as a VTuber. During this time of making the switch, I lost a lot of my general audience. My numbers had tanked, and I decided that if I was gonna go with this, I really had to dive in and try and build a new audience that was there for my VTuber self. During this time, I decided to completely rebrand. I spent time looking and digging through model concepts and eventually landed on the idea of becoming Nyx. She was a vampire bat VTuber based heavily on Draculaura, my favorite Monster High girl. I was so excited to try something new that finally really felt like me. So, Skitters, it sounds like you were so happy as Nyx. Why'd you change? Well, the truth is, I still wasn't happy. Even after all of that, I still wasn't finding fulfillment in streaming. It was really hard to make the decision to switch from facecamming to streaming as a VTuber in the first place. It was even harder knowing that probably about half of my audience and my community was still built on people that hoped that one day I would come back to facecam streaming. Okay, so it's not like they came at me with pitchforks or anything like that. I still had a strong viewer base that supported me for me no matter the content that I was creating. But I still came to feel really discouraged and really burnt out. During this time, I realized that I was not going to receive the same amount of support as a VTuber as I did when I was facecam streaming, and it was really upsetting to me. So one day, I just stopped. I stopped streaming, I stopped posting, I deleted my community Discord server, I logged out of my Twitch, and thought that I would never return. Cut to about 6 months later, and I'm sat regretting a lot of decisions that I've made. I knew that I hadn't made the decision to stop streaming for myself, but for the community that I had built, that I mentioned before, that I had heavily catered to as a facecam streamer. I knew this wasn't really what I wanted, and I really regretted not following through with being a VTuber. I do want to put mention in here that I am super appreciative of my facecam streaming community and what the majority of them did to support me when I really was trying to grow as a streamer. They weren't all bad, and it really was just the few that made me feel like they were only there for my body and that I was only there to be looked at as an object, not as a person. There were a lot of issues that came from facecam streaming. I unfortunately developed more body issues than I know what to deal with or how to deal with appropriately and healthily. Even to this day, there are still days that I don't like being in my own skin. I feel like I consistently have to dress or behave or act appropriately for somebody's gaze. I don't want to scare anybody away from facecam streaming that may be a new person that's looking to start out streaming, and maybe that's what you can do, or maybe that's what you really want to do. It's just not for everybody, and it definitely wasn't for me. So, this is when I decided I was going to rebuild. I started completely from the ground up. Aside from a couple of my socials, I made a brand new Discord community server, invited a couple of close friends from streaming before, and mentioned that I'd be looking at doing VTubing again. I really did my research into VTubing this time, found an artist that I liked to do my ref sheet, found an artist that I loved to do my model, and met my rigger, Cashew. I knew that without this complete start over, I was never going to get exactly what I wanted out of streaming. This was the best way for me to survive as a VTuber and do something that was good for my mental health. This time, I decided that I wanted to make real, genuine connections with people. I worked my butt off. I spent a lot of time on Twitch as Skitters before I even decided that I was going to fully debut. I spent a lot of time in communities trying to make friends with other VTubers and network and socialize and again, build from the ground up. I debuted as Skitters in December of 2023. This was the best choice I could have ever made. After months of waiting, weeks of networking, I found that my debut was a super success. Everybody loved coming to hang out, and I was elated at the amount of support that I received from not only friends but other streamers and lots of new people that I met along the way. People that were there to support me no matter what kind of content I produced, and specifically there to support me as a VTuber as well. So, I've mentioned how bad face cam streaming got for me and how it was so bad for my mental health. So, why do I still continue to do mixed content streaming? Why do I still continue to post my face to my socials? I didn't start VTubing for the anonymity of it all. I know a lot of people do, but that wasn't really my goal. I've been doing a lot of face content for a very long time, even before I started facecam streaming. My face was already out there. It really wasn't hard to find. For many years I did cosplay, and cosplay was all over my socials. It wasn't something that I was willing to give up to become a VTuber, and so therefore I decided that I was just going to stick to doing mixed content. What I did want, however, was to finally feel comfortable in my own skin and stop having people treat me like an object. I am a real person behind this VTuber exterior, after all. Even with all of the bad that had come from facecam streaming, there were still good days. I still remember being super happy getting to start and show off my cosplays and my makeup and the games I loved. Just because it turned bad didn't mean that it had always been bad. Plus, I still wanted to cosplay. I still wanted to be able to share my pictures from my conventions or my adventures, things like that. I didn't want to completely erase my face from the internet, and it just wasn't going to happen just because I became a VTuber. In the end, I don't regret decisions that I've made all around. Could some of them have been made healthier? Probably. But I don't know that I'd be where I am without the things that I went through and the things that I learned from streaming, especially as a facecam streamer. So, all of this to say that if you're in the same boat as me, or if you are struggling with feelings that I was struggling with, don't be afraid to start over. Don't be afraid to do something or make the leap that you feel is going to be best for you and your mental health. In the end, your opinion is the only one that matters, especially in terms of something like this. VTubing is such a good creative outlet for me. I've made so many good memories, and even though I still have my bad days, I'm the happiest that I've been in years, and I am so thankful for all of you and all of the friends that I've been able to make along the way. Since I started streaming as Skitters, I've had a few people from my facecam streaming days come over here and hang out and chat, and I'm so grateful to see a bunch of them. There's people that I made friends with that I truly did care about, but I was afraid to make the mention that I had become a VTuber for fear that they maybe wouldn't want to be my friend anymore, knowing that I had started over, I had come back to streaming. Turns out they were just happy that I was doing something that I really loved. So thank you for watching, thank you for listening. If you want to check me out on my other socials, I'll have all of those links posted in the description. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.